Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak. This 15th day of October 2024. We are transitioning to talk about something important that you find again also the Daily Nation reporting about counties stare at a cash crisis given the situation with the Division of Revenue Bill. But I just wanted to appraise you about the latest report by the Controller of Budget on the resources that counties have been able to collect. This is what you call the on-source revenue. There's been some effort made. Let's take a look at some of those slides in regards to the progress that was made in the financial year 2023-2024.
Yeah.
And the counties, of course, had budgeted to spend up to 562 billion shillings, but the development expenditure was 34% of that, and the recurrent was 66%. And then the national government for that financial year was to submit or transferred up to 354 billion shillings to the counties. The local revenues or the on-source revenue was 58.9 billion shillings, which is an improvement from the previous year. And let's take a look at something else, and this is to do with the target of that on-source revenue was 80.9 billion shillings. That was a 72.8% score of 58 billion shillings. The previous financial year, the counties had collected up to 37.8 billion shillings, so there's a growth of 56%. And then some of the counties that are said to be underperforming in terms of achieving their target, Nyandarua, Machakos, Mandera, Nyamira, you'll see them scoring between 42% and 57% in Busia, and Bungoma reaching 56%. And that's a problem. One county, this is Bungoma, actually two, Bungoma and Bomet. Bomet in the previous year had collected 242.3 million shillings, dropped to 238.9, that should be million, not billion. And then Bungoma had collected 1.18 billion shillings. This time round, collected 1.12 billion shillings, shrinking a little bit. Then, of course, there are some counties that registered significant growth. Wajir recording 253%. And you see Makueni, Nairobi, Turkana, and Homa Bay also reporting some growth for Homa Bay, for instance, from 491 million shillings to 1.2 billion shillings. And much of this is coming from the services offered by the counties, for instance, the health sector. Kiambu County had some significant growth from 3.6 billion shillings to 4.5 billion shillings in revenues collected. This is the money that residents paid as hospital charges, as bus park, as single business permits. Kilifi, 82% growth. Mombasa, 40% growth to reach 5.6 billion shillings, to be one of the highest in terms of on-source revenue. Murang'a County, 67% growth. And Narok, you'll see it, 4.7 billion shillings, up from 3 billion shillings. Nairobi reaching over 12 billion shillings, and so many others. So you can see that Homa Bay, the health sector, is recording the highest score at 841 million shillings from the health sector. Single business permits is 99 million shillings, and bus park is 47 million shillings. Let's take a look at another county. This is Nairobi. So out of the 12 billion shillings, the land rates were 3.4 billion shillings. Single business permits, 2.3 billion shillings. Parking fees, 1.9 billion shillings. Building permits or approvals, 1.2 billion shillings. And hospital fees, 1 billion shillings. So while in other counties, hospital charges are the highest contributors, in Nairobi it's the least, one of the least rather. For Turkana, for instance, reaching 530 million shillings, there's something that happened. Talo Oil Company paid some arrears in land rent, and that grew that collection significantly. CES collection 53 million shillings, health 95 million shillings, and other sources which include the Talo Oil land rent arrears 311 million shillings. Now, I'll get to you, Mheshimiwa Loto, because you've been quiet for some time. But Governor, we're noticing that growth. This is the third term of devolution, if you have to look at every term that a governor serves. What is this that is now appearing to work? Is it the systems? Is it new way of doing things that now you're finding a county like Homa Bay crossing the 1 billion shillings that they were not able to reach for the 10 years that they were there, if you to look at every year score?
Well, I think, first of all, growth is a very good thing that counties are collecting own source revenue. Why? It is better systems that are being applied. It's also that, shall I say that county systems are settling down a little bit. The bureaucracies in the counties have become a little bit more better able to define their responsibility. And remember that county functions are in Schedule 4. And own source revenue is primarily a fee for service. Unlike in the nationally raised taxes, and I want to correct the impression there, the national government does not really give counties money. I mean, we really need to emphasize this point. The Constitution divides the functions. And the Constitution also divides or creates, divides how nationally raised taxes will be applied to provide the services and the functions in Schedule 4. The only reason the national government comes into play is because they control KRA, which is the instrument of collecting. So they end up holding the cash, and then sometimes, of course, they behave badly so that they are not doing what the Constitution commands that they do. But counties themselves, for most of the services that they provide, are provided at a fee. It's expected to be a modest fee. So when you go to the health facilities, you pay, for example, for laboratory services and so on. Garbage collection and things like that. So counties provide services, and the better they are getting at it, the more revenue they are collecting. And I would say that in this round of devolution, I have seen many more county governors taking a very keen interest on how to grow their own source revenue. They have also seen that as you grow your own source revenue, you are able to use that to leverage other resources. You mentioned Homa Bay. For instance, because Homa Bay is doing very, very well in the growth of her revenue, what the county has done, what Governor Wanga has been able to do is attract investments, for example, from the pension funds. And the pension funds, in making their decision to invest in certain facilities, like for instance, there is a tenant purchase transaction that everybody is talking about. So the pension fund is investing about 800 million to create certain buildings and facilities that then the county does a tenant purchase, so they pay over a period of time. Why is the investor making that kind of decision? Because they can see that this county is able to grow their revenue. So it is systems, it is better attention by the county governors, and also, of course, it is a settling of bureaucracy and their ability to provide services. I should hasten to say, counties, we are not even yet at, say, 35% of the potential. 2 years ago, the Commission for Revenue Allocation did a study to try and estimate the revenue potential of each county. And what you will find is that nobody is getting even to 40% of the potential. There's a lot more that can happen. And finally, you should know that the national government, because you talked about rand rates or property taxes, the national government is the biggest defaulter. And so do not be surprised if you see counties repossessing land on which national government facilities are based. Because that in the law, if you do not pay property land rates, ultimately that land can be taken back to the public. And what you will find. Now, why should the national government not do it? Your guess is as good as mine, but they are not following the Rating for Valuation Act and Rating Act, which provide that the national government, like any other landowner, must pay and it is called contribution in lieu of rates. So private landowners pay land rates, national government pays a contribution in lieu of.
Right.
And they have been failing to do that since devolution started. In the last 2 years, I think they have paid Nyeri. Before that, they paid Laikipia, and they have failed to pay the rest of the counties.
Wow. And Mheshimiwa Lote, as a former deputy governor of West Pokot County, what do you make of the progress being made? I'll be pulling your county to see just how you performed, or your county performed in terms of revenue collection. But what would you say has been the transformation so far, especially since you left up until now in terms of the revenues and implementation of budgets?
Well, Sam, thank you. First of all, I want to appreciate my county, because my county has not been found in the bad books of not collecting revenues as envisioned. But Sam, I will be very sincere to you and to follow up what the former governor says, that the potential that we've got in our counties is far much outweigh than what we are clapping on today. I think we are happy. We are saying that we have collected 58 billion, and so we are very happy because we are collecting own revenues. For me, I think it's a sad state because, one, for us to be able to declare revenues, to have actually grown, these revenues are declared based on the proposal by counties, because counties are asked to give proposals and to give estimates of how much they can collect. There are 5 things that needs to be done before we actually say that we are either making progress or not. The first thing is that we need to have proper targets. Most of the counties, knowing very well that they do not want to declare revenues, will give a very low target. And so when we say the county has collected 200%, it basically means that they give a very low, completely low target to what their potential is. So first of all, we need to operate on the potential that has been estimated by the revenue collection body. That is the first thing. So that counties are not asked to give their targets. In fact, counties are supposed to be given their targets. That is the first thing. There is a research that was done, which gives the potential. And a research needs to be done by an institution, if it is the revenue collection institution, the CRA, to say each county, this county has got a potential of raising 400 billion. Let them not declare that they're going to raise 8 billion, because that is what counties are doing. Counties are actually giving very low targets. The next thing is that there is no truthful declaration of what is collected. And the reason why you find most of the counties do not want to automate. Why are they not wanting to automate? It's because they know that if they automate, they are going to declare all. And yet there are bourgeoisies in the counties that want to pocket some of those things. So the truthful declaration of those figures, we are actually talking about figures that might not be very truthful in terms of the declaration. The other thing that has actually made this thing work is the policies. There are counties that are having very progressive policies. Homa Bay, for example, has been given. Very progressive policies. But there are counties that do not want to make progressive policies, because if they do make these progressive policies, then they are not going to have things change, pocket change that remains onto them. And then the last one is the enforcement. Enforcement has been an issue in counties. You actually realize that most of the counties don't want to put proper enforcement because most of the businesses are actually run. I think I'll acknowledge this to the matatu businesses, where the policemen are the same people that are supposed to be managing the matatus in town. So you find that these matatus are let go because they are the properties of the police that are in fact supposed to be managing the matatus. This is an example in the counties. Most of the businesses are run by the executive, the governor and the executive, the relatives and the likes, and so most of them, it will be very surprising when you go to a county, you find that there is a permit that is issued to a shop, and the next shop is not issued a permit. Why? Because the next shop is the connected shop, and so they are not supposed to. That is something that is...
So how do you stop that?
That is something that is very practical.
Because the county government has power. The governor is elected by the people to do exactly that.
But that is exactly, if we come to the police, the question that you will be asking is, how many times have Kenyans said, you should not be running a business when you are employed? How many times? Many times. But have we ever achieved that? The matatus you find in Nairobi here is actually managed by the people that are supposed actually to be enforcing laws on this. And the reason why you find their matatus, so surprisingly, that are that flout every rule and there's nothing that happens to them. The same thing is happening to the counties. So even when we are collecting revenues, we are collecting revenues selectively because of who is who in this. And so there should be a proper way of managing this revenue collection.
Yeah.
A proper way of enforcement.
That's what I'm wondering. I mean, what is that proper way?
It's a Kenyan problem. It's a very Kenyan problem because we've actually said, it has actually been even in our laws that if you're employed, you should not do business. But have we ever achieved this as a country? We have never. The same thing is happening. The executives are actually the ones that are managing businesses. All connections.
There's such a law that if you're employed, you shouldn't do business.
Yes, there was an attempt to say that if you are employed.
Is there a law today?
There's no law today, but there was an attempt. And if you look at the Building Bridges initiative, there was an attempt to say, if you are salaried, you are working in the government, please do not manage a business. Because then, what will we do? You are running businesses, and so conflict of interest are bound to happen.
Okay.
So for me, I'll say this, Sam. We should not. I am not going to clap on what we are seeing that counties are actually making an achievement, because there is a big problem of understatement of the proposed revenue collection. We should be talking about 400 billion, like he has said, instead of 80 billion. Because if you are setting targets at 80 billion, it basically means that we still want to burden the national government to finance counties, and yet counties have got this high potential to collect this money. 400 billion versus the 80 billion that was proposed is something that is very, very, very little. But that being said, Sam, I will say counties have done. They have tried. They have really tried. Because they have moved from 38 billion to 32 billion to 58 billion. It basically means something has happened. And that's something that has happened. I'll look at it. Some of them are one time. The Turkana case, for example, they have actually done a 250% of revenue collections. And if you look at it, it's because Talo this time decided to pay for their land rates. What about next year? Will Talo be paying the next rates? Basically not. It will drop.
That's okay, Mheshimiwa. I hear you. And you raise very important issues, especially when it comes to targeting and reporting what has been collected. Because there are some counties like Kirinyaga that have continuously or consistently reported is it overperformance in terms of how much they're able to collect?
Targeting is the problem. They do a very low target. I
just put the figure. West Pokot, your county, you targeted to raise 230 million shillings. The actual resources that were collected were 185 million shillings, which is an 80.6%.
What about Kisii, Sam?
I checked your county. Kisii County, the target was 1.8 billion shillings, and you collected 1.18 billion shillings, a 64% performance. I also found Nairobi, where Mheshimiwa Elachi comes from, 19.6 billion shillings was the target. The actual collection was 12.5 billion shillings, which is again a 63.7%. I'll be checking Honorable Ndiritu's county.
Sam.
Yes, and then I come to Mheshimiwa Elachi.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate what my colleagues have said. Our country's potential is actually enormous. Looking back and trying to analyze the drafters of the Constitution, in all honesty, meant well. Because they've given us everything, every tool that we need to utilize to achieve certain goals, certain targets, and move on. The problem is, like we always say, Mwafrika ni Mwafrika. The truth is that on-source revenue is the piggy bank kitty that is being used by governors and their friends who are in the county governments, and that is the money that they are sharing. For the last 10 years, there was no much observation, there was no much oversight, there was no much analysis on how and where our money was actually either being collected from or how it was being spent. For me, I keep congratulating the Controller of Budget because she's been making the analysis. I happen to be very lucky because I sit in the Budget Committee and I also sit in the CPAC Committee, so I'm able to see how the money is allocated, and I'm able to actually oversight the money by auditing it and seeing where the issues are. Sam, I can tell you this. What Gladys Wanga has done in Homa Bay is a unique exception. But just like my friend, the governor of Muranga, just like our friend from Narok, the reason why Narok has picked is because they are now receiving revenue from the Masai Mara. All right, that is one item. It is a one-off, and I believe it will continue. So, for the governor to have achieved that, and
I thought they'd been collecting. It's Kajiado that now got rights to manage Amboseli.
Oh, sorry, that's right. That's actually what I was saying. The second issue that you have is that Gladys has moved on and looked at. She has a very good team, and they have decided to actually, like my brother was saying, go out for automation. Look at what the governor of Muranga has done. He has gone out for automation. I don't understand why all county governors cannot basically adopt what Kangata has done. Because to increase the money to 1 billion, and you see the other issue that is very critical, Sam. Look at the data and analyze it one by one. 90% of the money that is collected is from health services. That is deliberate. That money, you don't have to work so hard to collect it, because people go to the hospital and you're going to charge them anyway. So I want what the control of budget should now do is tell me, other than the health money that has been collected from the health facilities of the government, how much did they collect as rates? How much did they collect as parking, as land rates, as construction and development rates, all that stuff. That they are not saying.
No, it's actually there. It's in the document.
Yeah, but
it's a very detailed.
No, just wait.
Senator, look, because the governors and their deputies are not here to defend themselves.
No.
The reality is, the reality, Senator.
I know you are governor. Let me finish my argument.
Okay, I'll allow him to finish his point.
Let me finish my argument.
Yeah.
What I am saying, Governor, is this. Even when an effort has been put to even collect the money from the health facilities, health is actually the one giving more money, 70%, other than the normal revenue. That tells you, as somebody who's been in development planning, that if you are raising more revenue from your health, it means you are actually taxing the sick. Number two, another thing that is happening, hold on, this money that is being generated from the sick people that is being collected at the health facilities is not being recouped back into health facilities for these facilities to develop and grow. The money is actually being diverted away from the development of the health sector, from making sure that level 2, 3, 4 health facilities are actually supposed to be run properly and medicines available. The argument I'm making is very simple. Yes, they have done so much to collect that revenue. But why is it that most of these revenues from health? Number two, are we having a possibility that if we can improve on the health facilities from the money that we are collecting from the health, then we would have solved the health problem in all our counties? The other issue, Honorable Nderito, let me finish. You'll be given time.
That's okay, Senator. Just
No, Senator, look, firstly, what you said is actually not factual. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead. I wish you would have waited and finished, then you would have.
The reason being, Senator, all revenues from health facilities must, by law, Senator, be used in health. Hold on. And I'm quite sure this law must have passed through the hands of the Senate. The Facility Improvement Fund ring-fences health revenues that they must be used in health. And that is the fact. Secondly, if there isn't proper oversight, Senator, then it is you and your colleagues, because part of what Senate is to do is to oversight devolution. I yield the floor back to you.
Thank you very much.
Then I'll come in as a speaker now to tell them where all the weaknesses are.
Finish up, Senator.
Governor.
Yes, Senator.
The reality and the truth is the money comes and is supposed to be used in developing health facilities. My argument is it is not. If you go to KC, KTRH, level 6 hospital, you have patients who have got no food. You have facilities that are, I could run through. My argument is we have cases, because I told you I sit in the CIPA committee, where some of the governors have actually taken the money away from the departments, and which is supposed to be health for this matter, and they're utilizing it without achieving the purpose it was meant for. That is point number one. And true, yes, you're arguing that our job is to oversight what the governors are doing. I wish you knew how many meetings we called to visit certain hospitals. The last time I went, the Committee of Health to Kisii, the governor and all his people disappeared. There was nobody to take us around the hospital. All right? The amount of money that we are charging for somebody to go into a health facility and receive an operation, assume it was a simple operation. Previously, the amount was 15,000. Right now, the county government is asking for 45 to 70,000 shillings. This is the point I'm making.
For surgery? For surgery?
It's a small, yeah. Before they touch you and you're going to have an incision or they're going to cut something of your body, the figure you have to put in is 50,000. My argument is, where is a poor person going to be able? And the reason is governors are under pressure so that they can increase their own source revenue so that we can discuss it. So I'm saying...
No, Senator. But the fees are set in a manner that is laid out in law or regulation.
Yeah. Every money in Kenya is set up with a law for it to be used in a certain way. Haven't we sat here and I've asked you, Sami, we allocated and budgeted 170 billion shillings last year. Did it go to
let's hear the speaker. Let me say this.
Yes.
And I think that is where we feel, sometimes counties feel very, very disgruntled, or maybe they wonder what next, and even the governors. Because for us, even us in the Senate, let me say, the Senate would have helped just in two things. One, trying to streamline and ensure, and just say, why can't counties, and the governors themselves can say, this is the best system. We've seen it in this county. So can we have one system that is, the application can be understood across, so that even in County X, your neighbor is not wondering, how come Governor Nderitu is doing so well here in Laikipia, and here we are not doing well? But so that you start now questioning, is it the purpose? Is it the collections of the systems that you put in place? Do you need KRA?
Yes.
I know if you tell governors that, they will start killing you. But this is public resources, not governors' resources. It is public resources. We can agree KRA collects, puts into the account of, for example, like Laikipia County, the monies they have collected. Not that to take now to their, no. But because governors feel if you collect it that way, you'll start realizing there was a lot of potential in some of these counties. And we've lost money, yes, for 10 years. But there's no need of that. Because we can say each county is growing, yes, but that growth, if we are indeed a unitary state, and where we used to collect monies before we came with this new constitution was in the same places, but now we increased even the revenue streams for collecting this revenue, meaning you would have done better than the way the county governments of then, the de facto ones, were operating. That is one. But the other thing is in different, let's say the city counties. So this stream of garbage is very interesting. That revenue stream
is shocking.
Is where we need to ask ourselves very serious questions. And maybe we always try to think we have a lot of garbage, but maybe also we don't have a lot of garbage.
Maybe it's business.
Because when you look at the whole thing and you realize you're spending 5 billion, 6 billion
collecting garbage
on collection, and then you're saying you have, let's say, for example, 2 million Kenyans or 3, and even the ones in the informal settlements are paying for garbage every morning. That's why young people are coming out to collect that garbage. So is it that we are not, we have decided this is one stream where now what the senator says, it becomes the
kitty for the boss.
Or we have just decided. And then the other one...
Are you adopting that statement?
No, I'm not adopting that statement.
It's a kitty for the bosses.
I'm not saying it's a kitty for... I'm just saying, or we normally collect garbage, we get to Thika Road, we weigh it...
And turn around.
And weigh it again.
That's the kitty
or what happens? And then this one of Nairobi now, the revenue stream of construction and planning. That one is very critical. And I want to tell everyone now constructing along Kilimani, all my good Chinese friends, please can we now do the roads? Because even if I do those roads, you with your huge trucks and everything has completely made the place very unpassable. But why am I saying that? It's the same way where we are saying counties like Narok are now collecting revenue, isn't it? From the parks and Amboseli. But I want to tell the counties also, make those roads passable. That's why you need to explain to the community, you are collecting this revenue, yes, but it will help that environment of the people of Amboseli not to find themselves again, everything coming back to the headquarters. That is where it becomes now very tough. So you find roads are very impassable, everything, but for me, markets now. And it's Nairobi. I'm just in Nairobi. I don't want to go into any other. The markets, we collect a lot from the markets. I know KRA comes into the markets, they will collect also. So it has to have sort of an agreement that while KRA is collecting money from the markets directly, because now it doesn't go to the county, it is KRA who will collect, it means you must ensure this market is also workable and a conducive environment. Markets, yeah. Like Kawangware, they will come.
So
and KRA comes.
What tax?
From the Mama Bogas. Yes, they do. Oh, yes, they do. Oh, yes. And I'm talking about Nairobi. And I'm talking about Kawangware, where I even wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning, sometimes to go and fight with KRA. Yes.
Sorry, just a moment. Governor, is there a tax due to the KRA from open-air markets?
You see the lorries that are coming in, Sam. You see when you're bringing in the goods in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay. See, there are trucks. Some are coming from Tanzania. Some are coming. If you go to Wakulima, you go to Kawangware, you'll find all those trucks. Now, there was a period where KRA just decided to descend upon those. And so you ask them, this Mama Mboga will sit down. She has bought from the lorry. You want her to pay this tax. She will come and sit again. And the county will find her there again to get their 50 or 25 or 100. But what I'm trying to say is, can they streamline? And so that the person in the market will understand, who am I paying tax with? And what is my tax then doing? Because after that, you go to Kawangware, that market it needs complete overhaul, and nobody will speak about it. And then they will tell you, this is a market that has, and mostly in Nairobi, that's where that problem is. It's that we have some markets. During Kibaki's time, he gave them titles. So you find that maybe it is not completely owned by the county.
Okay.
You get?
Okay.
Yes.
I hear you. Governor,
I want to respond. Yes. Ordinarily, KRA does not get involved. You will remember, however, that in the previous county administration, when national government, the governor had signed off a deed of assignment assigning many functions to the national government, and there was something called NIMS. What is it called, NIMS? Yeah, Nairobi something.
NRS.
That one. So it is plausible that at that time KRA was collecting on behalf of the Nairobi County, but ordinarily not. And I want to also explain to you why actually even KRA would not really be able to collect county revenues.
Why?
Exactly. County revenues are a fee for service. I want to explain. Allow me.
Sure, go ahead.
I have no issue.
Like this. Take veterinary services. When you go, say, to Kajiado, Laikipia, when you go to Rumuruti and you buy ngombes, you have to go to the vet who looks or inspects those animals to see that they are not diseased. Once she satisfies herself like that, she writes for you a movement permit for livestock. And you pay for that service 300 bob. Now, what you're paying for is if the vet is not available at Rumuruti on the auction day on Thursday to inspect animals so as to determine whether they can move, there is no revenue to be collected. Now, even if you bring KRA does not turn itself into a vet. I'll give you another example, which because it has been used here, health. If you have no meds in your facilities, you have nothing to charge. If you have no laboratory services and so on. So the bulk of county revenues are a fee for service. In the national government is equivalent to what we call appropriations in aid. Yeah. So, for example, the way you are paying for services when you go to eCitizen. Now, those governors that are collecting, that's what they have figured out. So if you let's use the case of Homa Bay, because we have used it repeatedly here. What you will find Governor Waraga is doing, every month she sits with her senior executives, and each executive is reporting about service delivery in their docket.
Right.
The agriculture person is reporting in the livestock person, fishery, like that. And it is that level of detail, attention to detail and management that is allowing Governor Wanga to absolutely shine above the rest in terms of collecting, but also in terms of service. So it's a double win for the citizen. The citizen then is getting the service. Now, Mheshimiwa has raised the question of, could we have a uniform collection system? Again, as a matter of fact, during Uhuru time, national government tried to say, can we buy one revenue system for everybody? And even they found that that is not really realistic. And I want to explain like this. Take IFMIS, which the national government runs, and you be and reflect on the effectiveness of that system, touted as what was going to make public finance properly managed. Yep. Does it work really? So when you go to revenue systems in counties, I want you to remember that the revenue system or software does not really collect money. It's a payment channel, right, or it's a tracking system that when the citizen is paying for the service by the vet at Rumuruti, how does she pay? If she is paying, say, using mobile money, where does that money go? And that is what the softwares allow you is to track.
Right.
Sami. Yeah. Allow me to finish that because I allowed. Now, I want to say something about building plans because look, building plan approval is about control and planning of urban development. Now, she raised the issue of, say, here, Kilimani, whatever, all these places in Nairobi. What you will find has happened, which is a failure of implementation or pursuit of planning, is that areas that were low density have suddenly been turned into high density without the commensurate investment in the services. Yes. So you will go to any of these places in Nairobi, there are all these new high-rise buildings, condominiums and such, but for example, the sewer system is the same old one for when those areas were seen from maybe even from the 70s. And therefore, you'll be seeing people saying, oh, you know, there's a borehole, but you remember there's also a soak pit. So what water are you really drinking? That is a failure of enforcement of development control. Development control is expected to stop, for example, shanties and things like that developing, is expected to ensure that safety, public safety, is expected to ensure what Mheshimiwa is saying about roads and other services that are required as you increase density of population. Finally, I want to repeat. Yes. Revenues in counties are, for the most part, a fee for service. And those counties that are making rapid progress is because they have realized that. That means their governors are taking a lot of time to see, are these civil servants providing the services that are generating.
Could I
just before you do, because
because I wanted really
has been quite, just hold on, Senator. Mheshimiwa Elachi spoke about garbage collection, and I see most of the counties are reporting allocations and expenditure to that effect. I think Nairobi spent 1.56 billion shillings on garbage collection in the year ending June 2024. Some counties are spending up to 44 million shillings, like Mandera. I think more than 100 million shillings by Migori County for garbage collection. Also, I got the figures for Laikipia County. The target revenue target was 1.44 billion shillings. They achieved 73.4%, which is 1.06 billion shillings. Now, Mheshimiwa Lote, you see the story that is on the Daily Nation about counties stay at a cash crisis, and the committee, the Budget and Appropriations Committee, has rejected a Senate's figure of 400 billion shillings, insisting on the 380 billion shillings because this is what had been passed by the House anyway after the cutting of expenditure because of the failed Finance Bill 2024. Where should we go from here? Because counties are struggling already. They have not gotten resources for up to today 3 months now, since August. There is a conflict on how much money should go there. Do you also hold the view that it is actually possible to reduce allocation to the counties once it has already been given through Division of Revenue Act?
Well, first of all, I want to appreciate. I've looked through the panelists, and we only lack an MCA. And we become a complete
devolution.
Because we've got a former governor, we got the former speaker, we got a former deputy governor, we've got a sitting speaker. Senator.
Right.
I think we only need an MC and we become complete. So when we are discussing counties, I think we are doing justice.
I want to run for that office.
We could appoint, we could nominate
Sam to be the
nominated MCA for purposes of this session.
But he's not a son of a former politician.
Well, we will make an exception.
So that said, I think we are here for the devolution. And if you look at the Constitution 2010, one of the best principles that was actually adopted was to devolve services and goods and also devolve governance to the counties. And so for us, I will actually say it is important that we have resources go to counties timely, like the Constitution say. In fact, for us to say that we've delayed for 3 months is a very sad fact, because the Constitution is very clear. It should be a specific period of time. In fact, I think it's 15 days after.
15th of every month.
Yeah, for every month, that they should get resources. The fact that we are also very comfortable that 3 months after the governors are struggling to pay, we are actually putting our governors under very serious pressure. So that is the first thing that we will need to condemn. I know as a country we are all suffering because we went to a policy of saying we are not going to take loans, and so we're going to finance our own resources, where we are on our developments through our own resources. And the Mwananchi is the one suffering. Even as we look at collections of the counties, it is the Mwananchi that pays. If we look at collections by KRA, it is the Mwananchi that pays. So every time we clap and say that we are increasing our revenue collections, we are actually saying that we are squeezing the Mwananchi more. That is one fact that we need to know. But appreciative, the Mwananchi needs to know that these services, these revenues that they are raising is supposed to develop.
Yes.
So for me, I would really say, once an allocation has been done, Sam, it is important because once the figure has been declared, the county governor and the executive go into planning and they plan on that figure.
Right.
It then becomes something negative for us to say that they cannot be able to get what they had been asked to plan. And in any case, Sam, I think this is what we went through. The control of budget and the auditor will always come and audit you based on the figure that was declared for you, not the figure that you got. Sometimes say counties never expended.
So what happens?
Counties never expended.
Because this stalemate, what happens?
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes even our own institution becomes our own devil, because if a county was declared to receive 100 million, for example, from the exchequer, and they end up receiving 80 million, when the auditor comes, they'll say the county was not able to expend, because they're basing it on the figure that was declared, not the figure that actually was received. So that is one of the things that we sometimes want to ensure, to show people that devolution is not working. Devolution is working to some instances. What we need to do, Sam, is that once a figure has been declared, it must be disbursed to the counties.
All right.
Because governors are suffering. If you become a governor, I'll tell you, that will be one of the biggest problems that you've got. The pending bills in the counties are killing governors. People are dying. There are others that are even actually putting governors in very tight situation.
Right.
And it's because of the declaration of a figure that never finally comes to the counties.
Senator, so what shall you do? Because you're at loggerheads once again, and this is an issue that had been taken to mediation before it was arrived at 400.1, I think, billion shillings.
Yes.
What will you do?
For us, we have taken a position that we are not going to cede a penny. The reason is very simple. We passed this law, and constitutionally it allows us to keep it that way. The national government, the money that we are releasing to the counties is only 15%. The national government is keeping 85%. We have no apologies about it, and that's the position. Number two, I wanted to tell my brother, Dr. Nderitu, that the reason why the financials of our country have failed is because we have received to accept a financial platform that centralizes and that controls the collection, expenditure of revenue. It's deliberate. IFMIS system, which was supposed to have been, like you said, touted as one of the best systems around, it was interfered with for the 10 years. In fact, it's only last 6 months ago when the Treasury finally got possession of it. You can imagine a country allowing private individuals to run the financial systems complete. That is what has been happening. So my argument is, Sami, we are appreciative that those governors who are able to raise revenue, they are continuing to do so. But there are challenges. Number one, workers at the county hospitals and county revenue areas are being forced to raise revenue. Many of them have been sending messages to us. They are saying we're even being given targets that are unrealistic. The areas where county government is supposed to collect revenue, I'll give you an example. I've sat in a meeting where Sakaja sat with us. He agrees. Nairobi County is supposed to raise more than 50 billion a year.
So why is he not?
All right, so where we are, no, he agrees. And this is why I am saying, look at what the governor of Murang'a has done. He has used technology. GPS, any vehicle that gets into Murang'a is picked by the system. All the buildings and all the shopping centers and all the markets, they've all been spatial planned with. So he knows which revenue streams he's collecting money from. He knows which are his weakest ones, and he knows which ones he can balance and agree the public to accommodate him. Number two, taxation is always going to increase if the person who's paying the taxes understands and sees that the money you are collecting from them is actually working for them. Indeed. There is nobody who's ever had a question about whether you pay more, like the issue about the issue we had with the current government about increasing taxes. Actually, the reason why people don't want to pay taxes is because they believe, and I don't know whether they're right or wrong, but me, I'll say they're right. We are not getting services which are commensurate with the amount of money that you expect to raise from us. So if governors could understand that if revenue is collected and they are actually giving the public the services they need, nobody would complain that they are paying the taxes. If the services in the health sector are improved, he's talking about if it's the agricultural sector. Senator, look at conditional grants. Look at all the money that is coming for agriculture in all our county governments. Go and look at the books. Boss, there's nothing.
But then some.
There's nothing. Water, there's nothing. So what we are saying, we must have a controlled manner in which when we are raising this revenue, we have a system that pays, that collects the revenue, and that tells us where the money is going, at what time, and this must be encrypted. You know the problem that we were having with IFMIS? IFMIS has never been encrypted until 3 months ago. In other words, you could actually get into the IFMIS system, change out which action you wanted. Like if you are the first charge under the PFM Act is that you should pay who? Pending bills. Governor comes in, he brings his friends. His friends got the job last year, but there were people who had jobs 4 years ago. So what does the governor do? He changes the messaging which is going to the central bank and treasury and make sure that the people who are being paid are the ones who did work last year and not the ones of 3 years ago. Finally, Sami, we are having a problem with exchequer from treasury. We are having late releases of money to the county governments. Some people think it is deliberate. I don't think so. I think it's because we have been disorganized in such a manner. Why can't we create a fund which money is actually imposed in that fund, so that when we have because the cycle of budgeting and the cycle of procurement and the cycle of implementation and the cycle of payments, we all know the periods.
Right.
So that and salaries, of course, which is the revenue.
That would require a legal instrument.
That's what I'm saying. We must have a legal.
We have to put it in.
Yes, a legal engagement under the PFM Act, so that we can ring fence a certain amount of money, which counties receive, so that there is government continuation
Right.
as the taxes are coming.
Okay, all right. Now,
can I comment real quick?
What I wanted to say is this.
At 8 a.m.
What I wanted to say is this.
Let me take feedback, and then I will close with half a minute for each of you. The feedback this morning at Citizen TV Kenya at Sam Gituku, they are struck to use the Citizen Daybreak on what Kenyans are saying this morning. We begin with Sir Nixon Dugire. You're saying that on 7th of March this year, President Ruto tasked the UDA party chairperson to join other relevant bodies in formulating a new set of laws that will eventually lead to a female deputy president. Maybe the pushed time is ripe. Okay? All right. I think he's talking about the previous conversation about the impeachment of DP Gachagua. Okay, Mwalimu, I don't understand how and why it took Kenya Kwanza honchos that long to understand that the political marriage between the president and his deputy was as incompatible as it was a forced one. The president could have saved us from the drama currently witnessed by making the right choice. Engineer Lazaro, Honorable Nyonka, impeachment motion is a pure parliamentary process sponsored by MPs on their individual capacity. No one is in the position to be coerced more than 280 dignified lawmakers to vote either side of Gachagua or against, for or against. Kaloki, you're saying that please mention to Honorable Nyonka that it doesn't mean because Ruto was wrong in his previous tenure as a DP means he can't do the right thing now. All right, Bobo Tieno, now that his party leader, addressing Honorable Nyonka, has endorsed Adani Online deal, yet he was against it all over social media, does he still hold his stand against his wishes? Now, if you're able to spend 25 seconds each, I'll be so happy. Honorable Lachi, starting with you.
I'll just say I wish the Senate will understand why we as Parliament have had to just stand firm on the budgets that are going to go to the county. And unless you want to tell us that after everything went down, you have a different way of doing it, the better. But if indeed the whole finance bill collapsed, and here we are, everyone was to give in. Okay. For the sake of the country, for the sake to move.
Okay.
So we have to give in, and this is what we are. And by the way, we've not deducted. I think that's what we had just given. Yes, that's what we had agreed even before the finance bill collapsed. And so for me...
It was higher.
It was a bit higher.
Because the previous year was 385 billion.
No, we've returned it based
It was going up to 390.
And 90.
After mediation.
And now we've gone... And now we go back to...
Down to 380.
To 380, where we started after we collapsed.
Last year.
Yes, after the finance bill collapsed.
So it collapsed even with the...
Yes,
previous allocation.
With the previous whatever.
All right.
It's a given.
You have plenty of options.
Yeah.
Reduce interest rates so that government stops paying 18%. Bring it to 8%. You have 5 trillion outstanding debt stock. 10% of 5 trillion per year is 500 billion. And there is nothing stopping all these good leaders from doing the right thing for Kenya. So they cannot sit here and complain as though they have no options. Do the right thing for Kenya. Reduce interest.
Let us first clear the Eurobond.
On the domestic debt.
No, I mean, the Eurobond was repaid and you borrowed another one that is now for 7 years. This is there in your book. But if you reduce domestic
don't say that.
Rates,
and I know by next year we will clear
if you reduce
completely.
Interest rates, and you can, because inflation is at 3%, you can actually reduce interest rates from what you're paying 18% as government and bring it to 8%. And you keep asking, what is it? What was the Kibaki miracle? That's the kind of thing he did. Bring down interest rates. You will reduce the 1.8 trillion that is going to domestic. Bring it down, and that is where the money will come from. But don't eat the money.
Yeah, that's the problem.
As I appreciate my governor for having met his revenue targets, I also want to wish the Senate the Solomonic wisdom in handling this matter of the impeachment of the deputy president, just like the National Assembly did get the Solomonic wisdom to do justice to it.
And don't call us mob lynches. You know, that's what he said, and he never retracted.
Who said that?
Him.
I said?
Senator Nyonka.
That we became a mob lynch.
It was 25 seconds each. Senator, you
that one he has to withdraw.
Lynching Gachagua.
No. He has to withdraw that, by the way. He has to withdraw that sentence.
The point I want to make is somebody raised an issue about what am I talking about Adani. The position I took on Adani was not a party position. what the party leader has said, those are his views.
Okay.
Are you with me? My position is very simple. I have no objection with Adani doing the work. Let's do it within the law. Let us make sure we open up the space. We should have had 3-4 other companies giving us a view so that we can get value for money, so that we can make sure that the workers at the airport are not going to be kicked out, so that the national government maintains its position of managing KAA and air traffic controllers. If that doesn't happen, this deal will fight it for the next 3 years.
All right.
Thank you.
Now, Mheshimiwa Lote, your governor did not meet
You've agreed with your party leader. The way you have explained, you've agreed with the party leader. You have agreed with my party leader.
Don't put it in my mouth. I disagree that you cannot sanitize Adani to give them work. Let somebody tell me.
Just now.
No, I said, you've never watched my clips. I have never been against it. No.
You are okay when they are doing the work, as long as they are within the law. As long as, so you have agreed with our party leader.
Let's just bring it to a close.
That is your business.
It was not.
It's not my business.
Adani was not an item of the agenda. You just did it, and I have to thank you, Senator Richard Onyonka, Mheshimiwa Titus Lote, Mheshimiwa Beatrice Elachi, Mheshimiwa Nderitu Ready for making time for us. That has been our time here on Daybreak. Up next is Matters Social with Safin Acheng. Oma should be here. Bye for now. My name is Sam Gituko. See you again some other time.